There are moments in life that don't just surprise you, they unravel you. You lock eyes with someone, and something in your body pauses. Not in confusion, not in fear, but in a strange kind of recognition. It's like your soul leans forward before your mind can catch up. A pause, a flicker, a knowing, as if time folds in on itself for just 1 second and shows you a version of your life you didn't even know you were missing. You weren't looking for this person. You didn't expect them. And yet, in their presence, you feel an eerie calm, like you've stumbled into something ancient, like some invisible thread between you just got pulled taut. No introductions, no explanations, just a pull. The world keeps spinning, conversations go on, music plays. But something in you has shifted, and even if you walk away and forget their face, the feeling stays. We're taught that love is work, that connection is built, that nothing truly valuable comes without effort, sacrifice, or pursuit. But what if some connections don't need to be chased? What if they arrive ready, quiet, solid, and undeniable? What if the deepest kind of knowing doesn't come from facts or familiarity, but from something far more subtle and far more powerful? Carl Jung believed these moments weren't fantasies or romantic projections. He believed they were messages, signs that your inner world and the outer world were aligning. And when that happens, when something inside you quietly synchronizes with the moment in front of you, everything starts to feel different, familiar, meant. You won't always have words for it. You might not be able to explain it to anyone else, but you'll feel it. A soft pull in your chest, a shift in your energy, a sudden sense that something important just happened, even if no one else noticed. And that's where our story begins. Have you ever had a thought about someone you haven't seen in weeks, months, maybe even years, and then they suddenly appear in your inbox or cross your path on a random street? Or maybe you felt an urge to walk into a place you've never been, with no real reason, only to have a conversation that reroutes your entire sense of direction. These moments don't make logical sense, and yet they feel true, almost more real than the planned parts of your life. They linger in your memory, not because of what was said or done, but because of how aligned everything felt. Like the universe was conspiring with you just for a moment. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence where the inner world and the outer world collide with uncanny timing. But it's not just coincidence dressed up in spiritual language. Jung wasn't talking about luck. He was talking about a different kind of intelligence, a pattern emerging from the depths of the psyche, a silent collaboration between your unconscious mind and the reality around you. These moments of synchronicity often happen at emotional thresholds, when you're on the edge of change, when you're grieving, healing, or trying to understand yourself. Something shifts in you, often without your awareness, and then life responds. You notice the right words in a book you almost didn't pick up. You hear a line in a song that seems like it was written for you. You meet someone who seems to carry the exact emotional frequency you've been vibrating at. Someone who reflects not just who you are, but what you're becoming. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's resonance. Jung believed that your unconscious mind is far more powerful than you think, that it picks up patterns, energies, unspoken emotions and symbols long before your conscious mind catches up. And when you're emotionally or spiritually aligned with something, the world starts to reflect that back to you. That's why synchronicities often involve people. Because we are most deeply shaped not by isolated moments, but by relationships, especially the ones we never saw coming. So the next time someone enters your life in a way that feels oddly timed, deeply familiar, or too aligned to be random, don't dismiss it. Don't reduce it to coincidence just because you can't explain it. It might be your soul speaking the only language it knows, timing, emotion, and meaning. And it might be life whispering back, "You're ready now." Have you ever looked at someone, really looked, and felt like they hold something you've been missing? Not in a superficial, idealized way. Not because they check boxes or fit some image of perfection, but because something about them awakens a feeling you can't describe. A pull that feels deeper than logic, older than words. According to Carl Jung, this magnetic pull is rarely just about the other person. It's about what they represent inside you. Deep within each of us, Jung believed, lives a symbolic image of the opposite energy we unconsciously seek, not just in relationships, but within ourselves. For men, this inner figure is called the anima, a representation of the feminine soul. Not necessarily a woman, but the feminine essence itself. Intuition, softness, vulnerability, emotional depth, beauty in the undefined. For women, it's the animus, the masculine counterpart. Strength, logic, direction, stability, structure. Not as a stereotype, but as an archetype, an internal compass often invisible, but constantly guiding. These inner figures aren't just metaphors. They shape how we love, how we feel drawn to others, and what we find magnetic or repelling. When you fall for someone quickly, when you feel inexplicably seen by a stranger, when someone enters your life and makes you question everything, you may be seeing not just them, but your own unconscious projected outward. That's the strange part. What we're drawn to on the outside often mirrors what we're yearning to reclaim on the inside. The anima might call to you in someone's emotional availability, their creativity, their softness, especially if those are parts of yourself you've ignored or been taught to hide. The animus might show up in someone's clarity, calm, or emotional backbone, especially if you've longed for that inner grounding in yourself. You may think you're falling in love with them, but you might be falling into your own reflection through them. This is why the most powerful connections often feel so destabilizing, because the person isn't just a partner or a crush. They're a symbol, a living invitation to reunite with parts of yourself you've lost, buried, or never dared to explore. And the feeling that comes with that? It's not ordinary, it's electric. It's disorienting. It's vulnerable in the deepest way. Because what's being stirred inside you isn't just attraction, it's a form of remembering. A callback to wholeness. Jung believed that the people who awaken these inner archetypes aren't random. They appear when you're ready to begin the deeper work of self-integration, when your soul is prepared to stop outsourcing what it longs for and start reclaiming it from within. So the next time someone pulls you in without reason and you feel like they see something in you that even you forgot was there, ask yourself, what part of me are they reflecting? Because the truth is, love is rarely just about another person. More often, it's about the version of yourself they awaken. Some people don't feel new. They feel ancient, like a memory you didn't realize you had until they walked into the room. You sit across from them, maybe exchanging only a few words, and yet something in you shifts. It's not excitement. It's not infatuation. It's something deeper, something quieter, a sense of being seen in a way that feels impossible, even unsettling. Jung believed that this kind of recognition is not random. It's not chemistry. It's not magic. It's your unconscious at work, projecting onto another person the pieces of yourself that you've left behind, the parts you've exiled, the truths you've buried so deeply that you've forgotten they were ever yours. This process is called projection, and while the word often carries negative weight, used to describe blame or denial, Jung's understanding was far more profound. Projection, in this deeper psychological sense, is how the unconscious communicates with you. It takes what is unknown or unintegrated within you and places it outside of you onto someone else, so you can finally see it. You're not falling for that person simply because of who they are. You're falling for the part of you that you see reflected in them. This is why attraction can feel so irrational, why it defies your list of preferences, your logic, your common sense. Because the people who move you most deeply are not appealing to your ego. They're activating your soul. They're mirroring something real, raw, and unresolved inside you. And that mirror can be either comforting or confronting. Some mirrors are soft. They reflect beauty, potential, forgotten dreams. They remind you of who you wanted to be before the world told you to be someone else. Others are harder. They show you wounds. They pull forward insecurity, fear, the things you'd rather not face. But both are valuable. Both are sacred. Because both reveal what's still alive within you. Have you ever met someone who made you feel more yourself than you ever had before? Or someone who made you question everything you thought you wanted? Someone who unlocked parts of your personality that had been sleeping for years? That's projection in its most powerful form. But here's the key. Just because something is a projection doesn't mean it's false. It doesn't make your feelings less real. If anything, it makes them more meaningful. Because your unconscious doesn't speak through logic or language. It speaks through experience. And when someone enters your life and brings your inner world to the surface, it's a message worth paying attention to. Jung said that every person you meet is a mirror. Some reflect your light, others reflect your shadow. And the ones who reflect both, they are the ones who truly change you. They are the ones who wake you up. So the next time someone makes you feel something unexpected, deep, overwhelming, almost unexplainable, ask yourself, what am I really seeing? What are they showing me about me? Because when someone stirs your soul, it's rarely about who they are. It's about who you're ready to become. There's a quiet kind of heartbreak that comes not from rejection, but from recognition, with no resolution. When someone walks into your life and awakens something deep, something sacred, something real, only to leave before you ever understand what it all meant. We tend to equate value with permanence. We think that if something matters, it should stay. That love must be forever to be real. But that's not always how life works. And it's certainly not how the soul operates. Carl Jung believed that some people aren't meant to stay. Their role isn't to walk beside you forever, but to change your direction completely. They arrive at a very specific moment, when your unconscious is ripe for growth, when your identity is shifting, when your inner world is asking for something more, and they carry the exact energy needed to move you. They don't come to give you answers. They come to make you ask better questions. These people might leave you confused, hurt, longing, wondering if you imagined it all. But deep down, you know you didn't. The connection was real. The way they made you feel was real. The reflection they gave you was real. And even if they walked away, they left you changed, more awake, more honest, more you. Some people enter our lives like a flame, brief, bright, and burning. They illuminate something we didn't even know was dark. And when they go, we're left blinking in the light of our own realization. These aren't failed relationships. They're sacred intersections. You might not be able to categorize them. You might not even be able to explain them, but you'll never forget them. Because they didn't just touch your life. They touched your story, and your story will never be the same again. There's a kind of soul agreement that exists beneath the surface of logic, a pull between two people who were never meant to build a life together, but who were meant to crack something open in each other, to awaken a part of the self that could only be accessed in their presence. And when that work is done, the energy shifts, the chapter closes, not because it was broken, but because it was complete. So if you're holding on to someone who's no longer in your life, but who left a mark that still aches, stop asking why they left. Ask why they came. Ask what they revealed, what they reflected, What part of you was born in their presence? Because some people are not the whole story. They are the plot twist that changes everything. We like to believe that we choose when things happen, that we're in control of who walks into our lives and when. But more often than not, it's not our conscious mind doing the choosing. It's something deeper, something ancient, something wise. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind has a kind of hidden intelligence. It knows when you're ready for change. It knows when you're ready to meet someone who will reflect not who you've been, but who you're becoming. And when that moment comes, the right person appears, not by accident, not by force, but by alignment. You don't attract people at random. You attract people who match your emotional frequency. The people you draw in, especially the ones who move you deeply, are mirrors of your current state of inner evolution. They reflect the truths you're stepping into, or the fears you still haven't faced. This is why certain relationships only happen at very specific moments in your life. If they had arrived 6 months earlier, you wouldn't have noticed them. A year later, and you may have passed each other without a second thought. But at that exact moment, when your internal landscape was shifting, when you were finally starting to ask different questions, they appeared. Like a puzzle piece you didn't know was missing. They don't always come gently. Sometimes they arrive in chaos, sometimes in silence. But when they do, there's a deep pull that feels both unsettling and inevitable. That's not coincidence. That's timing. And your readiness is often revealed not by what you understand, but by what you feel. You may not be ready in the way you imagined. You may still carry fear, doubt, confusion, but your unconscious has its own timing. And when it calls something into your life, it does so because it knows you're ready for the work, not just the experience. It knows you're prepared to confront what you've avoided, to integrate what you've ignored. And sometimes that readiness looks like heartbreak. Sometimes it looks like joy. Sometimes it looks like complete disorientation. But in every case, it's a threshold, a moment where your soul says, now, begin. So the next time someone enters your life and stirs something deep within you, whether it leads to love, loss, or something in between, ask yourself not why now, but what in me was ready? Because timing isn't about convenience, it's about evolution, and the right person will always find you when you're finally able to meet them as you are. We grow up with loud ideas about love, that it should sweep us off our feet, that it should be intense, dramatic, overwhelming, that when the right person comes, we'll know because our heart will race, our stomach will flip, our thoughts will spiral. But real connection, the kind that matters, the kind that lasts, isn't always loud. In fact, it's often the quietest thing in the room. When someone is truly meant for you, you don't feel chaos. You feel calm. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of safety. A strange, steady inner peace. Not because everything makes sense right away, but because nothing needs to make sense. You're not rushing to define it. You're not anxious about where it's going. You're just there, fully present, and for once, that feels like enough. It's not a performance. You don't feel the urge to become a more polished version of yourself. You don't filter your words. You don't rehearse your feelings. Around them, you stop editing. You stop guarding. You stop trying. Because for the first time in a long time, being seen doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like relief. And there's no obsession, no chasing, no second-guessing your worth. Because something about the way they show up makes you trust, not just them, but yourself. This kind of knowing doesn't always come in a flash. Sometimes it unfolds slowly, subtly, like realizing that you've been breathing easier since they arrived, like noticing that the noise in your head is quieter when they're around, like feeling more yourself in their presence, than you ever felt trying to be someone else for someone else. Jung believed that these kinds of relationships emerge when your inner world is ready to be mirrored back to you, not just the light, but the shadow too. The right person doesn't just agree with you, they reflect you. They challenge the parts of you that are ready to grow, and they hold the parts that are still healing. They don't complete you, but they reveal you, fully, gently, without force. That's how you know it's meant. Not because you're overwhelmed with intensity, but because you finally feel anchored in something real, something unshakable, something that doesn't demand proof, but offers presence. Sometimes the most powerful signs come without words. A steady gaze, a long silence, a deep breath you didn't realize you were holding, until they walked into the room and suddenly you exhaled. That's what real alignment feels like. Not a spark that burns out, but a flame that doesn't need fuel. It simply is. So if you're wondering whether someone is meant for you, don't look for the drama. Look for the stillness. Look for the peace beneath the noise, the clarity beneath the questions, the presence that needs nothing from you but the truth of who you are. Because when it's real, you won't need to chase it. You'll recognize it, like a song your soul already knows the words to. If you've ever met someone who made you feel like time slowed down, who stirred something in you that had no name, who arrived like a whisper but left like a storm, just know this. You are not the only one. We all carry stories like that. Stories we don't always speak about. Stories that live in the body, in the heart, in the nervous system, in the spaces between our thoughts. Stories that begin not with logic, but with feeling. A glance, a silence, a moment that changed something you didn't know was waiting to be changed. Maybe it lasted a day. Maybe it lasted years. Maybe you never even told them how deeply they affected you. But something in you shifted, something opened, something came alive. Jung believed that the people who change us most are never accidents. They are catalysts, living reflections of the truths we're ready to feel, even if we're not ready to say them out loud. They awaken parts of us that have been buried beneath survival, beneath fear, beneath all the roles we've been taught to play. And when they go, it can feel like something sacred has been taken. Like a door was opened only briefly, just long enough to show you what was possible, then closed again, leaving you wondering whether it was real at all. But it was real. The transformation was real. The feelings were real. The growth you experienced because of their presence. That was yours to keep. That never leaves. Some people are not meant to walk with us forever. They arrive to shift us, to mirror something we needed to see, to remind us of our own capacity to feel, to break, to wake up. They leave so we can integrate what they revealed, so we can walk forward more whole than we were before. And if you're still grieving someone like that, or trying to make sense of a connection that ended too soon, or never fully began, know this. Grief is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that something inside you mattered, that you were present, that you felt something rare in a world that often demands we stay numb. You are not alone in this kind of ache. We all have a name we still think about, a conversation we wish we could finish, a version of ourselves we met only because of someone else's presence. And if that connection woke something in you, then it wasn't for nothing. Maybe it wasn't meant to be lived out forever, but it was meant to be felt, and feeling it has made you more real. So let it soften you. Let it shape you. Let it remind you that what you feel matters, even if it doesn't fit into a perfect story. Let it teach you how to love yourself more gently, more honestly. Let it show you that what's real doesn't always stay, but it always stays with you, because the people who awaken you don't leave you empty. They leave you open, and sometimes that's exactly what you needed. If this spoke to something in you, something quiet, something real, then trust that. These feelings don't come from nowhere. They rise from the parts of you that are finally ready to be seen. You're not alone in what you feel. So many of us carry silent stories, unspoken connections, and moments that never got closure but still live in our hearts. And sometimes, it takes hearing someone else put words to the feeling to realize we've all been there in one way or another. If this stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your story in the comments, whether it's a memory, a lesson, or just a feeling you've never put into words. You never know who might read it and feel less alone. And if you'd like more space to reflect, to explore meaning, and to understand yourself more deeply, consider subscribing. This isn't just a channel, it's a quiet corner of the internet where you're allowed to feel. No noise, no filters, just truth. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay curious, stay honest, and above all, stay close to what moves you, because that's where the soul speaks loudest.